Well, folks, here we go again. Third show of today. Unique circumstance for sure. We're an hour earlier than usual. So I'm sure many people are getting the notification right now and wondering why, what's happened. For those of you that watched the ill-fated Fed Dead Redemption, you will know that poor Bobby was ill. So therefore, the show was done, half an hour earlier than I expected. I didn't want to keep Bobby. He didn't seem well. And I had some stuff to do, and by the time it was done, I was like, well, I'm just going to sit here, which seems bad. Instead, I've gone live. Hopefully, some pals will join us, but if not, we have a nice core of grinners here as we go head to head, as Jason mentions, with the infamous World Wrestling Federation. I do not know if this show will be a thing that I do often. I do not know if this is a one-off. I really have no idea what any of this is. I'm simply here live to talk about professional wrestling once again, and that is what we will do. Let me make sure. Complete lie, but I appreciate it, pal. Free stream seems bad. Yes, it is. Very bad. But at least I remember my overlay, right? Monday Night Wars renewed. Factual. Okay, so look, guys, here's the deal. I know the diehards will know this because they were on the Patreon earlier. You can sign up, latenightgrin.com. To become one of those, sign up just $1. And the Confirmed Shoot and I did a long stream earlier today where we talked about the threads. We talked about all sorts of bullshit. But I wanted to do a non-WWE stream on the actual YouTube here. And so we may retread a little bit. We shall see. But I do know that Sean had a new report, which we can cover. And also, before we even get to that, some folks in the chat are mentioning it. Nick Gage with an exclusive contract with GCW, which feels instinctually like just a well-deserved fitting gesture that will be a one-off for the promotion for that particular guy in that particular circumstance. However, you could equally look at it as a sort of statement of sorts and perhaps a sign of change. I don't think it will be that. I think it's just a case of, that's the guy you give the deal to. He wants to wrestle less, etc., etc. So, congratulations to him. I know that there was some concern. Some folks were genuinely worried about. I'll comment on that in a moment. Don't have an app. I think some were genuinely worried about like there being heat between the two. It always kind of felt like work, right? But I know there were some people that were clued in that were like, not clued in on that story, just clued in general, that were kind of concerned. And, I think it's good for that promotion that's not the case, because that'd be a really weird thing to hang over them. Instead, he was the big reveal at Hammerstein, and he's got the contract here, so it's good stuff. Yes, absolutely. Assume it's a goodwill gesture to a guy they built around, but probably means they're doing okay money-wise. They should be, right? I mean, I would assume that did pretty well, that pay-per-view. Everyone on my timeline was talking about it, so I know Twitter's not the best gauge, but like for GCW, that isn't always the case. So I did there with Gage. Do you see that? Don't have an app. You're a pal. Even if you encourage JJ's filth earlier regarding Samoa Joe, I do not mind anyone having Monday Night Raw on in the background. They simply must mute it and look away at least 50% of the time. Fair. Okay, so here's what I wanted to do here. I wanted to have some fun with this because I joked about it earlier, but let's be honest, let's be totally sincere. Only thing I watched on Elevation, Mad King, was the Julia Hart squash match, which wasn't recommended to me by Confirmed Shoot, but all he said was Julia Hart is doing a gimmick where she's like really mad, and that sounded too funny to not watch. So I watched that immediately. I ended MLW abruptly to do so. It was indeed very funny. God bless Julia. She's trying her best. And Yeah, that's all I've seen as of right now. But I will catch up at some point. Okay, let me tweet this link here before we do this because I have an activity for us to do here as a family. Okay. Raw is on Sci-Fi. Oh shit, we can compete then, guys. It's good news. MLW should always be ended abruptly. Hasn't been as bad the last couple of weeks. As Tekker has turned around here in the last couple. Yeah, the first 3 episodes were just terrible. It's been better in this last couple of weeks, so that's good. Fusion's back, I think, next week or maybe the week after. I don't know. I thought it was back this week. Obviously, I don't pay attention. I saw Sean's report, and he said it pretty much categorically ruled out Jeff Hardy. And that was interesting to me because, those of you that saw earlier will agree. Who is the MVP of MLW? Jacob Fatu didn't work these particular tapings in Mexico, but it's him. He's the pre-tapes I did with him are fabulous. I'd recommend those. Other than that, I don't really recommend much. Yes, it was. Vikingo is special. Sean basically ruled out Jeff Hardy, which to many of you in the chat, you'll be able to victory lap on that because you told me he was out for 90 days and I've been owned. I don't know if we can do this legally, pal, but yes, Cody's theme is very funny. So I thought that this would be fun because to me, Jeff is the only candidate that ticks all the boxes, other than the fact that apparently the big looming box is the fact that he's not actually available. So my intention here, as we have some time, there's almost 40 of you in here, which is very fun. I wanted us to do a kind of prediction of sorts, a big board of likelihood for Wednesday's big debut. Okay? Now, it is a range of ways. I would like everyone in the chat right now, there's 37 of you, so not everyone, you don't all have to. If you're just watching Raw or whatever, you don't give a shit, don't feel the need, but I'm intrigued. TK confused me, said it will be both free agent and a forbidden door. Yeah, I think he's just using the forbidden door thing for like signings now and incoming talent, so there you go. Okay. I would like everyone in here that cares or gives a damn about this AEW situation to write in just the name. We can talk about after the reasoning, but I want to see the name that you guys feel is the most likely to come out on Wednesday and face Isaiah Cassidy on Dynamite. Just the name, and then we'll venture into the why, the when, the how. I'll give my own answer, but first I want to give everyone a chance. The name that for you guys is the most likely incoming free agent for AEW. Keith Lee, Joe, Keith Lee. Okay, so I'm the same. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful fame, in his report included the part there about, there's no confirmation, there's nothing that says for sure it's Keith Lee or even that, will be or probably will be. But he did say that a lot of the talent is kind of speculating among themselves there is Keith Lee. That doesn't mean everything. I just know how diligently Sean does his job, and I think within that you can probably conclude that he is a likely answer. And I want to stress again before I go further that Sean did make clear that is not, no one knows, that is not them telling him. I'm just saying that Sean is, very, very good at what he does, and I would assume if enough talent said Keith Lee for him to say unanimously that's the speculation, I would probably guess there's a reason for that, even if they don't know for sure, Okay. Keith Lee as a candidate. So I've locked him in at 1. You guys say him at 1. I've got him at 1 too. But let's just talk it through a little bit. One of the highest ceilings. I don't think he's the biggest star on the list because, quite frankly, Jeff Hardy's a bigger name. Samoa Joe's a bigger name. However, he may be the best balance of a potential top guy that can make a big impact, but he also has fame. He isn't a complete non-factor to the national audience like a Josh Alexander is, God bless him, great wrestler, but it's different, right? Keith Lee's been on the big stage. So he makes sense in that regard. In ring, I think we all agree he's a natural fit stylistically. He can have the kind of matches the AEW audience loves, which is, I mean, probably a wrong. You probably shouldn't even say that anymore because there's a broad perspective in terms of style. But you get my point. That all makes sense. One little thing I would say that's interesting is a ladder match is an interesting choice for Keith here at the pay per view. Doesn't mean he can't do it. He's certainly a better fit for it than a Joe, for example. I think it's pretty bold considering that, he's been pretty inactive here for the last couple of years, or not couple, last year. That'll be something. But he's a big power guy and he can do some really cool stuff in that match. So I think that doesn't rule him out by any means. The other factor with Keith, he just got married. I don't know what he's, that may mean nothing. I don't know, but it's worth bringing up. However, all factors combined, if we are going with Sean's report, and there's no reason not to, that Jeff Hardy is out of action. There you go. Quickly, before I move on here, I do want to give a shout out to a great Twitter username, Hangman's Horse, who sent us a little tip earlier. It was when the Fed Dead show was on. They said, "This is the only way I consume any Fed content now. Thanks for the impossible making it fun. Big love to you both," which was Bobby and I. I had to read that because I missed it earlier while being worried about Bob's health. We appreciate the support, folks. The pin chat, you will see the link to do the same. You don't need to because I'll read your comment if I see it anyway. I'm just saying it's there, and we can fuel. I was going to say no, it's not paywall. I'm not going to say we're going to fuel anyone's habit. Okay. This read what I missed there when I was doing that. Yes, the Isaiah Cassidy matchup does feel like you could easily position Keith as a killer. He's going to bump huge for him. I don't think we do, no. Wasn't Keith in some NXT ladder matches? Probably. Everyone does ladder matches down there, don't they? Juice Robinson. So, here's the thing with Juice Robinson. And I agree, he rules. Big fan of Juice. I don't know if this would be a good fit for Juice. It feels like you'd be doing him a great disservice, to be frank. Yeah, I don't think you'd do Juice here. I think that'd backfire greatly on him. Okay, this is an interesting factor. Tony slamming the door talk doesn't fit Keith to me. I don't disagree with that, but I don't really. Other than Jeff, who, as we just said, could very well be just completely. He may be off the board. Sean said that's the talk, so that's what I'm going to go on. I don't really see who's slamming it shut, right? I mean, Keith had the issue about who paid for his, when he had the medical problem. So maybe there's heat there. I don't know, but I agree with you. That phrase is certainly interesting. We may be overthinking it though. We've done that before with potential AEW signings. Okay, I see a lot about Swerve. What is the situation with Swerve, guys? Exactly. Forbidden Door doesn't fit a free agent. So, I think we have to be careful to overthink the phrasing itself. When was Swerve released, folks? Because if he's available, then obviously he's one of the league. But I assumed he wasn't because I haven't seen anyone talking about him. Do another week. The 19th is Swerve, apparently. Okay. Because he would be a pretty natural fit for this, to be quite honest. 19th, okay. All right. Slamming the door shut sounds like someone who's perhaps seen on to RH and decided, fuck it. So who is that? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that would be something if it was a Dragon Lee that came in. I think he's great talent, but it just with this kind of hype, it feels like you need a national name, even if it's not as good a signing. There's speculation here. There's a debate about whether Swerve is available. I'm not a scoopster, so I'll simply Let you guys debate that among yourselves. Okay. I'm going back to my big board here. We have Keith at number 1. Chat, if you put Keith Lee as your number 1, put your number 2. If you did not put Keith Lee as your number 1, just do your number 1 again. I'm intrigued what our consensus number 2 is. Because to be quite frank, at this point, I'm really struggling to see past Keith just based on the Fightful report. According to Will Washington, Swerve is not available yet. Well, he would know, so there you go. Joe, Wyndham. Oh my God, Wyndham. Good Lord, the results are much more mixed for this, which is fair. Gargano. I would say number 1 was Keith Lee. Josh Alexander, Gargano, Ali. Josh Alexander thing's fascinating because it really feels like, to me anyway, it really feels like he would only fire it up like that just to, like, that feels like him popping himself more than anything else. I don't know. Apparently Swerve is not available drinking. The Fightful report to, I guess I could just, I don't know. I don't want to blow up on the spot, but basically the talent seems to think it could be Keith Lee, but no one knows. There's no signs of it. That's just guessing. And Jeff Hardy is off the board. Within, if it is Jeff, don't get mad at Sean. I don't think he said that exact word, but I'm just, Alexander isn't a big enough star for the tease. I tend to agree. Unless, again, there's a real story about how he fell out of Impact, in which case that would give it some greater meat, I guess, as a scoop, as a big story. But I don't know, talent-wise, I don't know if it's where they need it to be. This is really hard, right? This is what's kind of fascinating me about this story is every which way you look, I can talk myself out of it. Yes, this is what I was kind of getting at. I think this nails it. If it's Josh Alexander, I think that would mean that TK is angry at Impact. That's exactly where mine went. The idea that, maybe he didn't get the offer he was looking for and that was the situation. I personally think we can count out Jay White and Will Ospreay simply because in one of the tweets, I'm pretty sure that the actual phrasing in one of the tweets was, through the door, sign the contract. It was very much a case of they will sign for the company, which, as we know, a New Japan talent like that would not be doing so. Randy naming Josh last week was a clue. That's what that part feels like a real factor. It's very sad that Josh leaving his role as the Impact Ace to become a bit part at AEW is likely because he's best for his show. Absolutely, and he's got to do it. It's just, he's a really interesting one in terms of a glance into where the industry's at, because you're not kidding. He really is the promotion's ace. He's not the champion we know he should be, but he's going there. That's inevitable. It's just interesting. It really is. Okay, what else we got here? I'm scrolling some. I'm sorry, folks. Sometimes I miss. I can't tell if what we're guessing fits what TK would find worth hyping this hard. Is it honestly just Harding in the same way? I think Jeff might actually be possible here. Maybe WB let him out the non-compete early. So this is important to say, because I know not all of you guys see the Patron stuff, and I understand that. I think Jeff is pretty obviously, when you look at the factors at play, I think it's pretty clear that Jeff's the one that kind of makes the most sense in a lot of ways, right? But the idea that he actually is unavailable makes this incredibly more interesting, because he's wrestling a HFO guy. He's a ladder match they're going to head, but building to here. It immediately feels like Jeff Hardy. But if he's not even available, then it's it's kind of fascinating to me. This would pop me huge. Jacob Fatu being I'm good on this 12-year contract, ML Dub, but you're right, not a big enough name. This just proves how many guys are actually available right now. Pretty exciting, absolutely. And if you pair it with the names that haven't even got cleared yet because of no compete and such, it's a long list, man. It really is interesting. I think it would have to be someone from WWE. I would personally agree. I also could see him doing this in a petty way to Impact. So we do not know of any beef with TK and Impact. We are simply guessing that if it is Josh Alexander, that would be suggesting that there is some. Yes, Twitter would dunk on Jacob Fatu. Okay. I am now, because there was no consensus, I will now list my number 2 candidate. And it will be to no one's surprise that I'm going to go a pick with my heart because my brain does not offer one. I'm going to go Samoa Joe. Now, look, folks. I know. There are many problems. We'll go through all of them. We will go through each and every problem that comes up with Samoa Joe. However, if Jeff Hardy is unavailable, I think Samoa Joe is the next biggest name. Does not mean he's the best signing, biggest name. Here are the issues with Samoa Joe. A ladder match seems bad. Immediate issue. Number 2, feels like the kind of guy that you'd bring in an angle. Feels like a real, interesting, unique choice to bring him in this form rather than something with a Punk or a top guy. I think there's a lot that suggests it isn't Joe, right? Feels like you'd do something else with him rather than this. On the positive side, and I think this is important, this is a factor, and I promise I'm not doing a bit when I say it. There is a chance that Joe has been shelved in a fashion that is probably a little bit unfair in recent months. We do not know the situation with why he lost that NXT title, right? He became NXT champion. He shot a couple of angles where he got physical in there, and then he vacated. There was a lot of speculation as to why. Perhaps we're in a world here where a Samoa Joe is just desperate to get in the game. And he would see this as a way to prove he's not injury prone, he's ready to go, and he wants in. Do I think Samoa Joe is likely? No. Do I think he is more likely than all the other names that aren't Keith Lee? Clearly, yes, I have him at number 2. Now, chat, if you disagree, I understand why. I do not see a lot of names, quite frankly, that match the level of hype, that have the necessary exposure and potential backstory in terms of where they've come from, the way that Joe does. If you disagree, I very much understand. I'm just saying that, I'm looking here at the lineup and I don't really see any other obvious ones. So, all that to say, I think it is Keith Lee, but I genuinely don't see who would be above, who would be in between Keith and Joe for me. I don't know. Do you think this new signee comes in, wins the ladder match at pay-per-view and beats Sammy after? I don't know. I think it's more likely in a lot of ways they lose the ladder match because you don't need to pin them, right? So, right, yeah, no, I don't think he'd be the TNT champ. I'm just because you remember, the ladder match, Ethan Page came in the ladder match. You don't need to win it necessarily. It's just it's star power. And again, I'm not saying Joe's makes sense, but I don't really see the ones that stand out as that's obvious. That's perfect fit. That's a real big news story. Do you think Keith is too big for Dynamite? No, I think it will be Keith Lee. I think he's the favorite. I'm just kind of going down here in order of likelihood, and that's why I've got Joe at 2, which tells you a lot about how kind of locked in Keith suddenly feels at 1 if Jeff Hardy is off the board. Which again, I don't know that for sure. I just read the report, and it's Okay, this is interesting. I honestly think Ali is more likely than Joe. Now, Ali is fascinating because as a story, it would be bonkers, insane. One of the biggest wrestling stories in recent memory. How likely it is, I don't know, man. That feels like the kind of thing that's like more feasible in our wrestling nerd minds than in reality. That just feels like an awful unlikely scenario. If it happens, it will be nuts, and we'll have a lot to talk about, and the wrestling war will heat up dramatically. Um, it's just a really hard thing to predict, I think. Um, if it were Ali, I think the idea is, Chops, is that like basically he wouldn't be released. It would just be a case of um, him, taking those contracts to court, basically testing how true they are as legally binding. You can't go anywhere contracts. Um, I don't think people are suggesting that he's actually released. I think it's more a case of he's going to take it and battle it with Tony Khan's backing, I guess, is the idea. This is true. We didn't know exactly when Kendrick was released. It only broke. See, here's what's interesting about this. I think stylistically, I mean, Ali's a much better fit than the guys we've talked about so far, right? He would be, he could have a nice 7-8 minute TV match with Isaiah Cassidy where they do some really cool shit. He would then go in a ladder match and he'd be a perfect fit in that in terms of what you bring, much more so than a Samoa Joe or even a Keith Lee. But man, it feels like a real stretch for me to kind of list him as likely, you know? And like I think we all agree, to be clear, we all agree it's bullshit what's happening with him right now. Right? Like independent contractor, they've released 100 wrestlers, he can't get out, all that stuff. But it just feels like it would be, it would be quite the move. And that doesn't mean it can't happen, right? I don't know. Let's throw some other names there. So I would say next for me, I'm just reading about the Ali stuff. For me next, I would have Josh Alexander. Now, we kicked this one around earlier. The positives, the pros, they did the hint, a week ago. Hint. Last week they did the thing where he was name dropped, which is interesting. Perhaps it could be a case of Impact kind of messing with his money a little bit in terms of what they offered him. I don't know. And Tony Khan kind of saying he's closing the door shut because that offer wasn't what he wanted it to look like. I don't know. I think with Josh, anyone that's seen him wrestle knows he's a hell of a professional wrestler and he's a good signing. The reaction he'd get in the building would be fascinating because I think there's evidence that he wouldn't get much of a reaction at all. But he's also like, he's a top guy in Impact. So you would truly test the value of what that means at this point because I think a lot of us assume that it don't mean much at all. But we would find out if Josh showed up on Wednesday because if he doesn't get a reaction, then none of those Impact guys would, which could be the case, unfortunately. Yes, Nick Gage. We've covered it, pal. We've covered it. We don't miss scoops here, pal. Yeah. I think. Are we missing? Are we missing an obvious name here that isn't Buddy Matthews, or am I? Like, am I being dumb, or is this increasingly feeling like a one horse race with Keith Lee, who in itself, as I said, I think there's definitely some reason to question his likelihood, but compared to the rest, he feels much more feasible. Gresham, the Gresham one to me makes like. The Gresham one just doesn't work to me at all. I feel like he would come in a way different way. A ladder match would be like the opposite of what you do with Gresh. I think him closing the door shut would be like, it's just, I don't know. There's too many with Gresham. I don't see the kind of factors suggesting he would go. I don't see them as nearly on the scale of those suggesting he wouldn't. That's just me personally. What else have we got here? Bandito, I just think TK's got to know his audience better to know. Like, that just wouldn't be a big deal. And that's fine. Great talent. And would be an awesome fit on Dynamite TV, but no, I don't think this is the way you bring him in. Does the marriage and honeymoon? Yeah, this is the thing, right? It's like with Keith, there's certain things that you kind of look at and go, I don't know about that. But just compared to the rest, he feels so much more likely. The fact that this ladder match seems to suggest there's some of a background in that, Jeff Hardy or Morrison. Morrison, hell of a talent, did a great job in WWE on that last run. But like, if you bring him in here, you may as, you're just killing him immediately. It's brutal. He just isn't that guy, unfortunately. It's not even his fault. It just is what it is. Okay, I want to circle back to this Cody one because it's interesting. I'm scrolling here. Quickly, this is certainly something. Knowing how badly WWE have managed their contracts in recent years, it could be someone we all think is currently contracted in, but in fact it's lapsed and WWE haven't noticed. I think we can all agree this is the most exciting option, right? I mean, that would be wild. That would be like an actual Lex Luger situation. If that happens, it'd be nuts, but I would be surprised. Okay. Johnny Gargano, I think, is I think he's going to take his time a little bit. He is definitely possible, though. Why do people think it wouldn't be Jeffrey? So, Fightful Select today reported, stuff they've heard about the situation, and Jeff was. I can find that. I don't want to Hang on a second, folks. The exact wording was Sean wrote that he'd been told pretty firmly it was not Jeff Hardy. So, unless some shit has changed or people are being very, very coy, it don't feel like it's Jeff. Okay, so I want to talk about this Cody Rhodes one a little bit because I talked about his thing on Patreon. I think there is a world in which we talked about Keith Lee and, there's some stuff that can make it. And with Joe, I talked about the ladder match thing. I think there is a world in which maybe Cody Rhodes is the initial free agent. A world in which he beats Isaiah Cassidy and the crowd is booing because, bullshit, this is not a real free agent. And then you unveil a real debuting wrestler and they beat up Cody. Or they do something. They do some kind of angle that then makes the audience kind of, you swerve them, you almost take it away and then you give it back to them. In a lot of ways, that would be a better fit for a Joe or even a Keith Lee in some ways, I think, than the current setup. Definitely Joe, clearly. So there's something to be said for that. It'll be risky, but there you go. Some Fergal talk, which pops me. Yes, absolutely, and that's what I'm sorry I didn't make it clear, but Sean's he's pretty good at this stuff, folks. Moving past guessing who it is, what are the odds for the outcome? Will the consensus be AEW under-delivered, satisfactory delivered, or over-delivered? I think it'll be Keith, and I think it's the middle one. I think people will be content with Keith. I don't think it will be a huge reaction, personally. But I think there'll be a genuine, general kind of consensus of he's a hell of a talent that they messed up over there, and he's got a chance to do some big things in AEW. How big those things turn out to be is very, very hard to know because that roster is stacked. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Oh no, don't say things like that. Don't have an at. Just please leave Jonah out of this. This is fair. You'd probably not do. You'd probably try and find another way of doing it. Maybe like Isaiah's still in the ring, and the guy comes out. I don't know. I'd have to figure out a way of doing it. I agree that Cody probably isn't the feud you would go straight into. Cody, then Bud Matt. There you go. Now we're talking. If Swerve somehow gets out of the no compete and it's him, I'll be so happy. Me too. Swerve's the guy that I think is actually like the best signing, which is hilarious because, like, in reality, as of right now, Swerve is a lesser deal. You know, it's not as big a deal as any of these guys. But I think long term, he's the best signing by a distance. So this might start the show. I would agree. It probably will start the show. Actually, they could. It doesn't feel like Isaiah Cassidy's main event in a Dynamite, right? So yeah, I would say it will. I'd say we'll start the show. What about Cardona? He's not actually signed anywhere. I mean, it's feasible. I don't know. I don't think this is the fit for him. Which doesn't mean you can't do something else. I don't know. And also, it's like the thing about, slamming the door shut on his prior promotion, like with Cardona, that's fucking every promotion known to man. It wouldn't be much of a big statement, I feel. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that. Swerve has the highest potential of any free agent, almost anyone in the biz, in my opinion. Interesting for sure. I think there's a crossover potential with Swerve that it needs to be framed correctly and presented the right way. I'll be honest, I don't think Hit Row was the way, but I think it showed you how to do it. Younger guy, awesome in the ring, can talk. He has this really cool edge that he finds when he's working heel that's like really exciting. So he's definitely one that stands out for me. I personally think he's a much better signing than Keith Lee, and I don't mean as a diss of Keith Lee, but like to me, long term, there's so much more I can, it's easy to book as well. So on and so forth. And whatever happens on Wednesday, folks, they need to sign Swerve. This is great. I can just imagine a big Aussie flag appearing on the Contron and you and Shoot praying for Bud Matt only for it to be Jonah. I honestly, if the rib went that far, brother, I would probably just have to stop watching professional wrestling. Yeah, I don't think you could do that. This is fair. Problem with Cody is you risk losing people if you wait too long for the real debut. And you would need that debut to be like one of the names we've talked about up front here, right? It would need to be like a big deal when they came out and shot the angle. So, absolutely. Is Biff free? Biff is free, but we all like Biff here, so we will not frame him as a game-changing, forbidden door slamming free agent. Because we like him. We don't want to put up with those in his mentions. Swerve Lee Moriarty feud to open his AEW run would be dope. It would. He's definitely a guy that to me jumps off the page as a TNT title guy initially. So that would be interesting too, because him and Sammy have a certain history. You could do some stuff with that. But yes, absolutely, that makes sense. He's definitely a guy who has an authenticity to him that shines through the screen for sure. Need Biff in the fleet regardless. Absolutely we do. Biff is awesome. I need to watch this match from the weekend because I'm told he's just great. I just, he's better as like the guy that you bring in as a TNT title challenger, and then he goes away and does some awesome matches on Dark that we pop for. That's it. And again, on this roster, if you get Biff in like the revived Ring of Honor, that's a very different thing. I think he could be a borderline top guy there. So it's all a matter of where he's at. Okay, let me look here. Yeah, I think Swerve, especially if you give him the entrance, I think there's an argument you bring him as a babyface, but I agree that he's way better, he's way more compelling as a heel. And I would be tempted, honestly, to just... I mean, there's a lot of factions, but there'd be something to be said for getting him some backup. It would be different to Hit Row for a range of reasons we don't need to get into here, but there's something to be said for that. I think he was really good with the dynamic of having, numbers on his side. They just kind of presented it in a way that I thought did less, was less kind of positive than they intended. That's just me. Swerve feels more likely as the Joker in the ladder match. That's interesting. Absolutely is. Can Keith work? I don't know. I said this earlier. Like, I think if you was 2-3 years ago, I'd said absolutely. It is an interesting choice to me, like having Keith Lee do it. And again, it's nowhere near as interesting or wild as a Samoa Joe. That feels bonkers. But it doesn't feel like a natural fit to me. I have to be honest. But it's not nothing that like a deal breaker. And again, like I didn't see a lot of the Bearcat stuff. But the first couple matches he had back when he worked Lashley, and then he did the match with Cross, or the 2 matches with Cross. And I remember watching it, and like he looked, like a guy who was getting his legs under him. And unless I'm mistaken, he didn't do a lot of matches back. I don't think he's had a really substantial wrestling match in a year. That's a long time. So, especially when he wasn't just out sitting in catering, like he had a serious health problem, right? So that doesn't mean he can't be the guy, to be clear. Would enjoy Swerve being the first TNT Open challenger to win the belt. Me too. That'd be awesome. Don't be Shane O'Mac. Could you imagine? Would be nuts, wouldn't it? I mean, it'd be awful because Shane is terrible. But God, it would be hilarious. If Swerve gets in the fleet, the rest of Hit Flow. No, I don't think so. I think Hit Row is a thing of wrestling's past. Yeah. I mean, look, Keith can definitely do he can definitely just fling guys in a ladder match, to be clear. It's definitely not a deal breaker. Love him or hate him, I'm the second one. Shane O'Mac would pop me the most and get the biggest crowd reaction, but very unlikely. He would definitely get a big reaction. But a lot of things would get a big reaction. So there you go. Free agent is Jeff Jarrett. Sorry to hear that. When do we think the first woman of the group debuts? I would guess Athena in the next couple of weeks would be my assumption. In the Thunder Rosa saga, because she has 4 people fighting her right now. That'd be my guess. Keith was on live events. Well, there you go. He's definitely a better fit in a ladder match than Samoa Joe, right? Like, so it's no big deal. He can do it. And again, you can produce it any which way. There's like 8 guys in the ladder match. He can fucking fling guys. You can do anything. He isn't a concussion concern the way Joe is, so it's like, it makes sense. For me, it's kind of crazy that a lot of people think Jay White would be a letdown. Even if it's not happening, I think it'll be one of AEW's better signings. As a full-time signing, big signing. Probably bigger than any of these signings we're talking about in terms of what he could do there. As a guest, it's less exciting, but as we know, it's kind of been suggested this will be a signing. So, I think it's just a matter of perspective, man. I think, look, those of us that have seen some of Jay White's stuff, I think he could be a tippy top guy there. That doesn't necessarily mean that the kind of wider audience would pop as big as we would. I don't know, actually, to be honest. Shane is the most chaotic option. Yes, absolutely. Okay, let me catch up here. Would Shane's music have the same intro as Cody's? Okay, that rules. That's good stuff. Brucey Beats, we are not going to find a good consensus second option because I realised about 5 minutes into this game that it's probably Keith Lee because all the other ones make so little sense. Unless, if you guys can convince me otherwise, I'm open to it, okay? But I came on here with good intentions and I was like, maybe I'm being just a homer here and I'm going with Joe. These other ones, man, I don't know. I mean, maybe Josh, but like, he isn't much higher on my scale than a Joe is, to be totally honest. Yes, Jay White is under contract for some time. He is awesome. he would be a main event guy that you could build around for 10 to 15 years, but it's not available right now as a full-time signing. So therefore, I think we can throw him and Ospreay out for that reason. I froze them. Wyndham. Oh, Wyndham. Now, you talk about a guy that doesn't make much sense in a ladder match. I don't think Wyndham is the fit here. He's definitely a guy you'd bring in an angle. I'm sure somebody's already said Morrison. Yeah, we talked about Morrison a little bit earlier. I'll be honest, I don't really think he's a good fit for the roster. As talented as he is, I don't think he's a necessary signing. But it feels like bringing him in with this hype would be brutal for him, just to be totally honest. I see Josh as a better ladder match opponent than Keith. I do too. I don't know. I feel like he's Alexander due to the Forbidden Door slamming shut and recent name drops. I'll be honest. If it's Josh Alexander, I'll be intrigued for a range of reasons. It will be interesting from an Impact perspective and their relationship with AEW. It will be a good signing. However, I also don't think it's worthy of that degree of hype. To me, anyway. And that's just me. And I think anyone that's watched me review Impact knows I think he's an awesome wrestler. I'm not knocking Josh. You do all this for Josh Alexander. The only reason I would do all this for Josh Alexander is I'm dunking on Impact. Which he may be. I don't know. But yeah, I definitely get the reason people want Ali. It seems like unlikely for obvious reasons, but it's a huge deal. I get why people would want it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking here, scrolling. Who is the worst possible outcome? Wyndham. No, I mean the Titan probably. Right? It feels like it's just. It feels like the kind of thing that that's my impression. TK wants to slam the Impact door shut. Okay, here's what we'll do. Let's do a science project. That's definitely what this is. What we're about to do. Chat, out of 10, your excitement if Josh Alexander's graphic hits the screen and he comes out on Wednesday. I would be at 6, 7. That range. Chat, what do you think? Rating out of 10 for Josh Alexander in terms of your personal hype. Not so much an objective thing, just your personal hype. That was an interesting way I described it, right? 6 to 7 seems to be the general range. I got a 4 owned. 5, 4, 5. Oh, see, there's a 9. Yeah, I don't know. And this is the other thing is I genuinely don't know what the reaction would be. I do agree with this. I can't really see a world in which Josh is like a main eventer in that promotion. And that's not a knock. I think you guys know that roster's stacked. Yeah, it'd be and this feels telling in some ways that it would be most interesting as like a kind of wrestling industry maneuvering deal, right? I'll be excited for the Page program that leads to the North going on another tag run versus the likes of FTR. The North will be good. This is the thing, right? This is saying I know Good Brother knows this because he literally said it earlier. Josh needs to do what's best for his family and him, but I do agree with this general sentiment that as a fan of his work, it feels like there's a lot more to be excited about with him staying where he is, and I know that's controversial. And we all dunk on Impact, but at the same time, I'm not really rushing to see him. It's just a guy on the roster here. That's just me, and that would probably lessen my hype some too. I would say the chat's reaction, considering most of you guys are pretty like clued in to the wider wrestling landscape. The fact that you guys aren't like super hyped feels telling to me, but I'm not. I'm just one dude. Um, Shane Taylor will be awesome, but again, it's the same problem, unfortunately, as much as I like him. Yeah, I don't know. He could definitely be TNT champ for sure. But like, if you think of how many guys are ahead of him in that queue to get that shot, I don't know, man. Even though it's 7 for me, I feel like it'd be a big letdown for the crowd. Right, and the problem with that is, and this is kind of the thing they did with Christian, and I love Christian. So what I'm about to say at Christian is not, it doesn't reflect my personal view, which was all fucking how it's Christian. I love Christian. However, it's, you don't want people to be debating if it's a big deal or not if you're signing Josh. If you're signing him, you want it to be exciting. And I don't know if this would hurt him or help him, to be honest with you. I don't think it would be a massive issue because he's a great wrestler and he'd go out there and have a great match. But it's just, yeah, I don't know. See, this part is where I'm intrigued by the notion of him slamming a door shut. Because, yeah, maybe there's a world in which Josh is coming in as a pissed off free agent because he didn't get what he was looking for from Impact. Maybe, just maybe, that's what we're looking at here. Which is, I'm not saying that makes it more interesting, but it feels like it could be something. What have we got here? If people keep saying Brandy name dropping Josh was a clue or their way of introducing the name, oh, what a way to start. He may get booed by association. Yeah, fair. Tony Khan buys out Ollie's contract. I mean, look, I think we can all agree that other than Shane McMahon, which no one like really wants or shouldn't want anyway, Ollie is definitely the most insane option here. He's the one that would be most interesting to talk about, and what it would do to the industry would certainly be something to watch and follow. It's just hard for me to say it's likely. That doesn't mean it won't happen. It's just like I can only list it so kind of confidently, right? Yeah, I don't know if they lowballed him, Golly. I'm just saying, like, my guess, if it is Josh, I would assume that's part of it. If it's Prince Devitt, then we're getting ready for a victory lap, folks. That'd be one of the most crazy things ever. Is this like a real thing people are saying, or is chat just getting fired up about Devitt? Because I mean, it would be more insane than Ali if Roman Reigns showed up, but I don't know if this is a thing that we can expect to happen, folks. Unfortunately, I mean, I'd love if Fergal showed up. Unless this is a thing that chat has just invented, I don't think anyone's speculated about this. Chat's fired up. Fair. Okay, guys, please do not try to talk yourself into Shane McMahon. I promise you. There's better things we can do here. I would rather us talk ourselves into. No, I wouldn't actually. Let's do. I was going to say Wyndham, but no, that's fine. Big pop at us, just forcing Prince Devitt into the conversation. Very fitting. Shane Taylor, unfortunately, as talented as he is, he's that same problem of. Well, firstly, the ladder match part is a factor of him, but also the lack of national recognition is a real problem. AEW contracts are, you can work elsewhere, like within reason, with clearance, but a lot of the top guys are making the kind of money where they have no, that's not even a fault on like a CM Punk's mind. Like I'm sure if he wanted to, he could go to Tony Khan and say, "Hey, can I work the New Japan Cup?" Like, it's fine. Rod Strong, big pop. Thanks for popping with that chat. Triple Paul, Mick Foley. My God. we've really you're really proving my point here with the rapid um, unraveling of the chat in terms of the names being said. This is interesting. Yeah, Darius is awesome again. Yeah, not a big enough name. I love this shit, man. I really do. I'm sure you guys can tell I've been talking about it for an hour, but it just fascinates, right? It's all dead content in 48. What are we looking at? 48, right? 48 hours. Dead content, gone, lost forever. Nothing interesting about it. But for this little couple of days here, we can have a lot of fun because you just go for each candidate. It was the same with the Christian deal, which was almost a year ago now. And the big thing with Christian was, which is hilarious in hindsight, was that he has a contract at WWE. It's like, well, none of the other guys make nearly as much sense as he does. I don't think it's Kurt Angle. I don't think it's this guy, that guy. And then obviously we found out he never had the contract with WWE. I don't think that's going to be the case with Jeff, who still makes the most sense because Sean reported it, and Sean isn't Raj Giri or whoever. But certainly interesting. The most likely income is that we learn not to totally trust late night Tony tweets. Amazing. This was a thing. I don't know if you know this, but Kurtz said that after what happened at WrestleMania and in the time since then, Tony has reached out to him about doing a redemption tour, doing a comeback tour, doing a retirement tour the right way, which is, I'm going to assume, not what's going to happen here on Wednesday, but still, it's worth bringing up. Brian Bob is on a 12-year contract. He will not be leaving for the All Elite Fleet. WWE, we'll have to talk about it, but not the All Elite Fleet. Oh my God, Randy Orton. Wow. Now we're talking. Brucey Beats he's swinging for the fences. Good stuff. Doesn't this prove that TK did the right thing in teasing this on social media? Makes it more fun than just going ahead out of the blue on the night. Yeah, absolutely does. This shit's it's fun, man. Speculation's fun. It's probably more fun than the actual moment itself. Almost always is, actually. It's part of the game. It's tough for Kurt's brain, but fair. When do you think we see Julia Hart turn heel? I mean, it seemed like tonight was a pretty big step in that direction, right? She was all mean and shit. Didn't really find it very easy to take her seriously, but it was. You get what you get. It's John Cena. We've seen a lot of John Cena in TBS commercials. Wow. Here's the thing with that. This is where it's layered, and this is why I love this. It's one thing to think it's John Cena. I know you guys are joking, but just play this out a little bit. Imagine a world in which not only have AEW signed John Cena, but they've positioned him to beat Isaiah Cassidy and go into a ladder match at Revolution, in which the winner gets a shot at Sammy Guevara. That part makes it so much more compelling to me. If it was just a free agent signing, the conversation would be pointless because I don't know, man, we'll find out on Wednesday. With the ladder match, it's truly this hilarious kind of, range of factors, and it's just fun. There's some WWE Raw talk. I don't know why that is. I'm sure it's not on right now. I really like how each week AEW's made it must watch by having a surprise pretty much each week. They've no surprise, a big match. Yeah, absolutely. I think, Dynamite's biggest strength, beyond the fact that it's just generally a good show, better than the norm, is that they have really captured that Nitro vibe that anything can happen, right? Which Bischoff always talks about. And frankly, that has been gone from the national scene for 2 decades. So it's really exciting, that part of it. It's very AEW that it doesn't feel out of the realm of possibility that we get 2 debuts tomorrow or Wednesday. Tomorrow for me. And I'm not saying we will. I'm just saying that's very AEW. It doesn't feel impossible, right? They do crazy shit like that sometimes. So There were still commercials on Raw, even though they said there wouldn't be. Owned. TNT would want nothing more than putting John Cena as our champion in their bio. Man, this is what I like to see. Talking yourself into it. I like it. Are we expecting this debut to go all the way, win the ladder match, and beat Sammy? I'm not, personally, no. I think there's a range of ways you can protect a guy in a loss in a ladder match, right? A 6-man, 8-man ladder match. Someone like a Keith Lee, I don't think he's winning the TNT title immediately, so I don't think he's winning the ladder match. This is factual. And within this, if you really wanted to, I don't really because it's 2 a.m. Within this, you can probably find a story. The fact that the title match has become so secondary in my mind to this dorky shit. That could just be me. But I would suggest there's probably some message to be found in that. Just throwing it out there. I'm not going to get into it here, but it's interesting. Yes, Cena as a heel in AEW would be absolutely hilarious. Him running back the thing with Mox, where he was like a big old dick about about him as Dean Ambrose, would be incredible. The idea of him, doing the whole, he took his ball and he couldn't Kai in the World Wrestling Federation, just being a big old dick. Good shit, man. And then you build to him and CM Punk as a heel tag team. Corporate Synergy will be their name. They both have spin-off shows on TBS and TNT. If Lance Archer had a chance of winning, we would discuss it. Fair. In a world where Cena wants to promote Peacemaker and AEW wants to go on HBO Max, there you go. It's a foregone conclusion that Hangman is winning. Why would there be lots of discussion? Well, I agree, but it is a world title match. I think it could have more heat. Is what I'm suggesting. It doesn't mean we should be sitting here like speculating about who's going to win. It's more a case of like the meat and potatoes of it as an angle in a match. What have they made enough of the hook of Hangman getting the shit kicked out of him last week? I don't know. It's up to each person's different. I mean, I certainly would have. I don't know what they did on Rampage, but if they didn't run a video package, or if they did, I don't remember it. But I personally think there's a way to add more meat to it than just it. Like it's obviously a transition, and that's fine. But I don't know. I mean, look, free agent stuff's more interesting to me anyway because I'm a nerd. But I'm just saying. How many minutes bell to bell with Archer and Hangman, and who bleeds? I'd imagine Hangman bleeds. I'd imagine they go about 14. I don't think they actually need to go that long, but it's Texas Deathmatch, so I assume they give it some time. Talk after Hangman got laid out was about Jake and Lambert. Angle didn't hit. That would be my personal read on it. And that's a shame because the physicality fucking ruled. As it did the week before that or whenever they'd last get the angle. It wasn't the week before. So, 14, 16, 13. Yeah, about right. It'll be the TV main event, right? Do we think it'll be the main event, folks? I think it'll be the main event. I mean, last week's thing may make them play around with that some. Is this the closest we've been to a Dynamite with only 2 matches announced? I'm almost certain it is. And more than that, Brian, that's why I'm happy to talk about all this bullshit now, because quite frankly, I'm hoping by Wednesday when we do the preview show, there'll be a whole lot of new shit to talk about, because they need to add, as you said, they need to add some matches here. Probably the biggest Dynamite that didn't have a sub name attached to it. My God. Fair. You think Cole beats Hangman? Oh, fuck. I don't know. It really feels like I might want to put the belts in between. What are they called? Undisputed. United Emirates. I was like, fuck. Undisputed Era in the Elite. Feels obvious Red Dragon beats Dress, but I don't think they do. Don't have an. I think the Kings of the Black House of Thrones do. I'll be honest with you, man. I can't compute that. I think when it happens, they'll be able to hook the audience into thinking that Cole's going to win, which is the beauty of wrestling. I think it'd be kind of nuts right now, to be honest. I know there's a lot of people that are kind of like calling on Hangman and stuff. And I just think it's way too soon, I think. And you need to let's see how the feud goes before I say anything about Hangman's title reign, because there's a chance that will change the narrative immediately. But like the idea of having Adam Cole beat him, that might me feel too good, man. That's and like, I know Adam Cole's one of your guys now, but at the same time, no, I'm not rushing to do that shit. Hangman's your guy. He's your ace. You don't beat him with the triple pull guy. Well, Hangman's run underwhelmed with the focus becomes more about getting from opponent to opponent than actual storytelling. Should he already be having filler feuds? I said this time ago. People took it the wrong way because they thought I was dunking on Hangman. It's very difficult sometimes when you have that belt, you have like it's like a ticket, right? Like you can do a feud without much meat because the guy wants the belt, and that's fine. But when you're surrounded by the kind of killers that Hangman is in terms of a Punk, a Bryan, a Moxley, so on and so forth, their feuds are naturally, well, not naturally, but generally, they're going to have more complex kind of stories to them because they need to. They haven't got the belt as a centerpiece. Cole is important as a feud because that shouldn't be the case with Hangman vs. Cole. There's a lot of substance to that feud. There's a lot of story to that feud. There's a lot of history. So, to me, this is a big one for Hangman because that's the kind of feud that you build the television show around. So hopefully they do that. Okay. I don't know if I'm doing this on there because that's like 3 hours away. But yes, push. God bless. We've won. Okay, let me scroll. Hangman started his reign for 2 all-time classics. Absolutely. Feud's it's a big one for the reign. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't think it's cold. I just think he could probably be featured more, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's cold, right? No way Cole beats him. I don't want them to make me think he will, though. Right now, the thought of that match isn't really getting me stoked. Hopefully they can heat up between now and Revolution. Yeah, I think they can. And this is what I'm saying, and I hope I explained it well enough. It's just like, this isn't just, this guy wants the belt, right? Like, they should be able to tell a really great story here with those two guys and where they were at when they came in into Bullet Club, the Elite, whatever. Because it was around the same time. I think it was the same US tour for the Bullet Club guys. So there's a lot there, man. You can do a lot with that. I hope it's treated with the importance that it probably should. Do I personally get fired up about it? No. But I'm not a big Adam Cole guy, and that's just subjective thing. Here's the thing, though, Topez. It's the single, right? We'll do a push listen party when it's the album, but the single feels like even the same for me. just the 3 minutes. Okay, repeat it, guys. When do you think MJF gets a title shot? After the Wardlow program or before? I will guess that Wardlow is the Double or Nothing match. So, because then I'm looking. I've always thought Punk would be all out. I would guess Full Gear if it's this year. If not, I think it's almost more likely he doesn't have one this year. CM Punk wins a big one for MJF. I think he's ahead of Adam Cole in the pecking order in terms of next champ. But I don't think he is the next champ necessarily because I'm bullish on Punk, man. I'm locked into that as my pick personally. Wouldn't surprise me if MJF won it Double or Nothing. It's that kind of in the air. What have we got here? I don't think it's the album, right? It's just the single, I think. The one that we saw the clip of the video with Kanye. I could be wrong, Topics Receiver. I've been wrong many times before. I said last Wednesday that I had heard stuff that Keith Lee wasn't going to AEW, and tonight I said he's the leading candidate to debut on Wednesday. I don't know shit. Pretty sure Cole is the one who brought Hangman into the Bullet Club. I think you're right. I think it was the War of the Worlds tour, and they added Cole and then Hangman, I believe, which is a huge thing in Hangman's career because before that, people were really like dismissive of him, which is hilarious looking back now. Who inducts Bryan into the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame? Wow, that's a great question. I'm trying to think here. This is really interesting. I don't know. There's a name that immediately comes to mind that works for WWE, so that means it's not him. I could see them. Brie. That would rule. Yeah, Nigel feels like the natural pick. And then my mind went, chat's doing the same thing, went to Homicide, but like, I love Homicide. I don't think he would want to do it. And I'm just not sure that's the fit for him. His Hall of Fame acceptance speech for the Indie Hall of Fame was incredibly Homicide. I love him. He's one of my favorites ever. I think he can do many things. An induction speech is probably not it. I don't know. I think Nigel really makes a lot of sense, but again, right now at least he isn't available, right? Maybe I'm missing someone. I could probably just do like. I don't think it would really be a great answer, but they shared that those two and Key were the first main events. You could do Daniels, I guess, based on that. But that wouldn't be very exciting, to be totally honest. I mean, I love Chris, but that doesn't feel like the natural fit by any means. Johnny Ace, that'd be a pop. Just rewatched Double or Nothing 2019. I think TK lied, and he had 5 champions lined up. In my opinion, MJF cutting the promo on Brett and Hangman isn't a coincidence. That rules. If that is the case, that would be nuts. Especially if it happens at Double or Nothing. I'm trying to figure out this Bryan thing now because it's Kerry Silken does everyone. They could just do they could not do it the same way WWE does. It'll be interesting. If Joe is in or Punk is in, it feels like the other one will. Like if Punk's in, Joe will induct him. If Joe's in, Punk will induct him, it feels like, right? The Briscoes. I don't know. I'm not very good at this, clearly. I put that in the title because I just was like, well, we probably should have stuff in the title. I was going to just put Monday Night Law, but I'm told that you should be more specific with titles. Sure, it's fine. So, yeah, I don't know either, Drake. I don't know if it's a ceremony. I don't know what it is. I do think if Bryan is there, I think there's a chance you get something with him and Gresh. Not a match because Gresham's wrestling Bandito, but it certainly would be interesting. I love Samoa Joe and will always be happy to see him, but Joe going into a ladder match for TNT title contendership would feel like a waste for whatever is left in Joe's body. I completely agree. I think it would be a very puzzling choice. Joe is a guy that you naturally bring in an angle, especially with Punk fighting a whole faction. There's a whole lot of stuff you do in a promo about whatever it may be. The only way I could see it being that is if Joe is kind of resents the narrative and perception of where he's at in his career and wants to be hands-on and full-time. I do know, and this isn't a scoop, but if you watched or read any of the stuff he said at the time, he was very excited about being like the centerpiece for NXT, which is hilarious because of how things happen. If in fact he was not actually injured and was pulled out of the game, due to maybe something else that may or may not have been happening in the world that suggests he couldn't have been there for a week or two, which I don't know, this is me guessing, then that's interesting. That's the only way I could see him in Joe is if he's made a point of, I want to be a full-time guy. I'm tired of this kind of talk that I'm done. Other than that, though, I completely agree with you. To be honest, even if that's the case, I agree with you. Yeah, that will rule. This is also true, right? I'm sure he's probably in one of those fucking Money in the Bank matches, right? You just, you can agent it accordingly. With this Rodman, he slammed the door shut on Bischoff, pop. Mox turning down Danielson, Joe coming in as Danielson, and the Dragon Dojo's heavy would be awesome. Brother, we talked about this earlier. We kicked it around some on Patreon, Shoot and I. But like the idea of doing this and then eventually the big angle is that they try and get Punk. Good Lord, man. I don't even know if that's a big deal, but to me, that's like as good as wrestling could possibly get. The golden generation of the early to mid 2000s, like, dominating this alternative young promotion. Oh, you could tell some fabulous stories of that. I really do. But again, that's literally booked for me. So the Mox thing was a hell of an angle last week. I think they really did a good job hooking people on that. 1 second, folks. Okay. We know that he's a good agent and could be a coach. Joe will be in AEW in some form. I think with any big name, you can kind of assume, you can guess there'll be an AEW. I think Joe is a really unique cat. Though. I think him going back was was pretty telling in that regard. He's different, right? And he sees it differently. And there's a chance one of the other promotions offers him a different role. A world in which he's an executive as well as a wrestler. I don't think it's impossible if he went to one of the other places. Doesn't seem like he would get that in AEW. So it depends what he wants to do. He's like, I think there's a good chance that was a big part of why he went back, etc., etc. There's a lot of moving pieces with Joe. Wherever he goes, you guys know I'm watching. So I don't really care at this point. All bits aside, you've been watching this for over an hour now, so I'll be honest and totally transparent. There was a while there last summer I wanted everyone that I enjoyed to be on the AEW shows. It's like, I've quickly realized that's not healthy. So I'll pop if it's Joe, but wrestling is better for it being kind of wealth being spread to me anyway. So there you go. Well, let's not get carried away, Bruce. Okay, I didn't say anything about MLW, brother. Let's rein it in a little bit. God, Eddie would be so resentful of this faction, guys. He'd be great. I'm out of the game on TEW nowadays, man. I mean, I appreciate the only TEW I do know is the shit we do on air when I do the built different wrestling promotion. So everywhere, man. Japan, like Impact. Everyone dunks on Impact, but like I watch the shows. I think we have a problem. A lot of people talk about third promotion, and I get it, but like I watch all the alternatives. I mean, I love Ring of Honor. I'm watching Ring of Honor as soon as that shit comes back. So as much as it'd be great to have a proper third promotion, until it happens, I'm watching these other ones because it's just at this point I've realized that the alternative is not for me anyway. I did it too. Like you guys know, I did Fleet Files. I watched every AEW show front to back for a while there, and I just my kind of conclusion was like, there's stuff you can enjoy everywhere. Some promotions, the percentage is lesser than others. Impact the last month or so has been genuinely good. I'm not doing a bit, I swear. I don't think it'll be good forever or anything, but like the Gresham stuff helped that show immediately. And I'm not in a point in my fandom anymore where if a Samoa Joe goes to Impact, I'm gonna be like, I'm not. I mean, I may make a show of it on Twitter because it's what I do. But it's just fuck. I'd watch. I watch already. Okay. Noah is. I need to watch more Noah because my feed. Like their buzz is very much positive, which is nice to see because it's an awesome promotion with an incredible story. So it's good to see them doing well. This Mox and Brian thing and Punk losing makes me think it leads to Eddie and Mox versus Punk and Brian. Good Lord, man. That's about as good as it gets for me, that right there. There's not enough bandwidth for another promotion. To be honest, man, I agree. And I think it's something that lives in our imagination, which is why, personally, I watch the ones that exist because I just don't think it's gonna. I think it's a real thing to wait around for a promotion to kind of come up from thin air. It would pop me huge if it did, but I don't think it's the thing. If you watch a show like an MLW or a Strong or NWA, whatever of these, some of them are just bad. I've never said otherwise, right? But the more places there are that have people that you want to watch, the better for wrestling, I think, objectively. That's just me. Is this a free show? Yes, it is. Which may or may not explain my takes. Fair. Yeah, I think there's guys also like somewhere. I mean, I was desperate for Andrade to go there, and he's had a fine run, but like he doesn't wrestle all the time. I don't sweat it as much anymore. We can forget about the Briscoes and AEW. I don't mean you should forget about it necessarily. It seems increasingly unlikely though as time goes by, which is a shame. As a fan, at least, it's a shame. But again, that goes back to what I was just talking about, right? If you do that match in Ring of Honor, at Supercard of Honor, it's a pretty big deal. On AEW, it's probably a TV match. So, as long as I get the match at some point. If the NWA can get 2 more Darius level talents and a 5 out of 10 booking, it'll be worth it. Yeah, man, like the NWA, honestly, I just don't know why they do 2 shows. I don't understand it at all. This Ari Daivari Darius Lockhart match was good. And the had this match with Mike Knox that was like whatever. But you can do a fine 45-minute show. For some reason, they're doing like that as well as another 35-minute show. It just seems like you're booking subpar talent for the sake of it. I mean, I'm happy everyone's getting paid, but like, good lord. If you want to do it cheap, then do it properly at least and just have a small roster of talented guys. They're a really kind of frustrating one because their format still is really fun. And the booking is puzzling. But there's like a charm to some of the stuff they do. And the roster's just bad. Just sucks, man. Like it's brutal. It really is. I wish it wasn't the case because the way the show's presented pops me, but unfortunately the talent pool is bad. I do not believe it'll be Jeff Jarrett, folks, but I appreciate the pops. Do you ever see Danielson running matches back with Kenta or Marufuji? I don't, unfortunately. I mean, it'd be. Oh no, actually no. Let me take it back. Let me work back. For some reason, see my heart. I went straight to Noah. Kenta, yes. I think you'll get the Kenta match. Whether it will be as good as their Ring of Honor match. But yeah, I think you'll get Kenta. Marufuji, I don't think so. Kenta, I would guess yes. Pay-per-view is my cut-off for Briscoe's AEW hope. Holding out a little until then. That's probably fair, right? Especially if they're doing the tag team battle royal. And they could be in that, I guess, right? They could be like a surprise. Throw out FTR or whatever. I thought they were going to AEW after they lost the GC Dub tag titles. Yeah, I did too, but you get what you get, etc. Okay. I really don't need to go anywhere, but I just was, I'm aware that we've now been on for an hour and a half, which seems bad because I've already been on for many hours today. The Fed Dead show was very, very brief because poor Bobby was very poorly, which was a great shame. I think you'll get Tanahashi. I think you'll get the Tanahashi match, the Okada match. I just think with Noah, there's probably I know they just did the show over it with New Japan, but I would guess there's moving pieces there. So, I'm staying awake, Tope. I just don't want to bore people, Yeah, I agree, Grin. I agree with that. Like, it's really pretty brutal if they've just been actively trying to get a job with AEW and to no avail. They've just been tweeting about it the whole time. It feels kind of nuts to me. Yeah. It feels like something they wouldn't do too, which is maybe there's something we learned in that. Well, I mean, viewership has certainly peaked about half an hour ago, guys. So yes, Tanahashi and Danielson will fucking roll when it happens. Okay, well, this I shouldn't be the one that's laughing at this because I had COVID like a month ago. But yeah, fair. Let's see then, chat. Any questions? Any random thoughts? We can move on from the free agency. Anything else to discuss? Because I'm happy to be here for a little bit longer. I know that Raw is 3 hours long, which I should make clear. Monday Night Raw will probably never be 3 hours long. But I'm not in no great rush, especially with some push dropping in about 2.5 hours. Tanahashi versus Mox will happen for sure. I mean, lest we forget, they kind of set the stage for that there for a moment, right? Which feels like a very, very distant memory now, but they did. So you'll get it, I think, definitely. It's a matter of what promotion, but can we talk about how amazing Andrade has been? He's really turned around. Absolutely. He's been great in those segments, and his confidence as a talker and a character has been awesome. I just wish he would wrestle more, but that's a selfish thing. What he's actually doing is probably getting him over more than matches would at this point. So I can't knock it. I think he's been great. Pick your own GCW type match. Do I have to? Now here's the thing with that. Do you mean death match or like weird? Jeff Jarrett shows up and has a guitar and wacky matchup. Okay. I would bring in Nia Jax as a knockout artist. She would probably wear shoot boxing gloves. She would do one punch knockouts. I'd have her knock out everyone in the promotion, and then the lights would go out and it would be the Fiend Bray Wyatt. What that match looks like, I don't know. That's why I'm booking it, brother. Yes, Tanahashi and AEW would be great. Agreed. Glad we agree on this one, Grin. Glad you took my side on this one, pal. Thank you. If Joe Holbert could book 5 matches for the Craven Cottage show, what would that card look like? Okay, this is fun. I'm going to use wrestlers that aren't in AEW because I'm a nerd. Okay, you know what you're getting. John Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus FTR is the first one. CM Punk versus Samoa Joe is the second. I need to work Andrade in here. Andrade versus... Shit. Give me Andrade Jungle Boy. Give me Danielson versus... What's the best Danielson match I can do? Give me Danielson and Tanahashi. We were just talking about it. That would pop me most. And then give me Athena versus... We're going to get the Rosa match next week, so I won't do that one. That would be my natural pick. Give me Athena versus Shida. Let's do that. Thoughts on Vanessa Bourne at AEW Dark? Pop. Big pop. I would say something else, but paywall. Big question. What is Jonathan Grisham's ceiling on mainstream wrestling TV? Is he too nerdy and niche to hold the big belt in AEW? Yeah. I think it's not so much the nerdy part. I just think like there's limitations to his act that would probably show on a roster like AEW. Now, as a mid-card champ, he would be incredible. My actual pitch for Jonathan Gresham in a national promotion would be him as a heel, and I'd have him in false weight classes. And I would have him call himself the pound-for-pound king and give him like Floyd Mayweather heat where he won't take fights above a certain weight. The problem with that be he's actually he's quite big now in terms of frame. He may not be that small in terms of weight anymore, but that's why it's beautiful that wrestling is a work. That's how I would use him on a national promotion. And that ceiling is still like the mid-card champ. So you get what you get. What do we think Marina Shafir's ceiling is? utility heel, has a kind of cool aura, but loses the big matches. Nothing wrong with that. I think she's pretty awesome. Can you ever get Oracle to open up about his bad Tanahashi takes so he can get buried by the chat? You guys don't like Oracle enough without me throwing him out there to get wiped out. He's not alone in that take. There's a lot of kind of like older heads, and he's not older in terms of age, but his taste is that didn't like the way Tanahashi Americanized Japanese wrestling stylistically. Like his shit isn't physical, and he doesn't hate him. I just don't mean he sees him as like the god that we do. Hate is a good match for Athena. Grin, I like that actually because she the one. Thunder Rose is my actual answer, but we're getting that next week. It may not even be the full match, but it still felt kind of cowardly to list it. Rod Strong would be on the card if he wasn't in WWE. This is fair. This is fair. I don't know that Gresham thing. I could just see that being incredible shtick, right? Like him being the pound for pound best wrestler would be you could do a lot with that. I think from a kind of heat perspective. There's a match he had at Progress with King where he very much wrestles as like a shtick heel, which pops me. You could equally push him as an underdog babyface. He's a great wrestler. I'd say his ceiling is upper mid, but it doesn't mean he isn't great. Most of my favorite wrestlers have that same ceiling, so it is what it is. Imagine a tall Paul Jonathan Gresham matchup. Oh hell, my god. Sounds like victory to me, pal. Shoot has just informed me that he showed Mrs. Shoot. He's our dead silent bit earlier from Patreon, which is fun. Okay, what else have we got, folks? What else have we got? We're an hour and a half right now. This this keeps rolling. This is fun. Do we have anything else? Tomorrow is a Patreon exclusive day, so I thought it'd be fun to do this and just kind of let's get those pops out, especially before Wednesday when we all know who the debut is because the scoops are too damn good these days, right? Hook versus Gresham. My God, is Hook world champ by 2024? No, but like, I think it probably says more about the roster. I don't know. Gresham's gonna be Hook's gonna be fascinating. Sorry, someone messed me. Hook's gonna be fascinating because he is like genuinely over. 2024 is not too far away, right? So I would say no. It'll be really interesting to see how they kind of like steady the pace of his push, if not though, because you'd have to find a way to slow it down, right? FTW champ. That's definitely going to be something they do. I agree. Who wins the Owen? If it's like a younger guys thing, then I could see it being Garcia. If it's just an all-star lineup, then I don't know. I'd like to see like a Jungle Boy maybe. He also fits the younger thing though, so I know that Jericho is going to want to have a serious run in it, which will be a fun conversation. Why isn't Wheeler Yuta signed? He hasn't had the All Elite graphic. I don't know. That's an interesting one. I mean, the way he's used, you'd assume that he's basically signed, right? But it is interesting. Who's in the Face the Revolution match with Wardlow already in it? Well, Keith Lee, I guess. I'm going to personally guess Andrade and Darby. It's just me. I would rather they have a match on the pay-per-view, but I think that's what they'll actually do, personally. It's just a guess. That's 4, right? I'm going to take Swerve as a mystery entrant. And finally, I could could see Starks or Dante. There's some names. I don't actually know how many people are in it, so it's tough. Does MJF leave AEW for the Fed? I am almost certain he does not. Why do you think we don't see more triple threat or fatal four-way matches on AEW? Maybe Tony just thinks they suck. I kind of do. I think he doesn't think they're any good. So I think it actually is that simple. I have to say that's one thing they don't do that I'm glad they don't. I think they're a real crutch. Kenny could want one last tournament run for sure. Scorpio Sky thing is fascinating because he won again on Dark tonight or Elevation, and they're definitely making a point of getting him that momentum rolling. Hang on a second. Yes, I think MJF wants to be there. Flair, absolutely. MJF, I'm certain he's not leaving there in the next 6 years. It's probably too long of a time to say, but no one will remember this anyway. I think he's staying for a very, very long time, folks. I agree, Goldie. I think there's a lot of evidence that Scorpio is Sammy's pay-per-view match, which is an interesting choice in a range of ways. Especially if he isn't winning. It's very strange they've built this for the way they have. Because it could have just been a match. It's just interesting. If MJF did leave, would he be a top guy for the Fed? Would he get a giant Rumble reaction? I don't know. I think he's the kind of heel they would beat a lot on TV, which I think kind of hurts the. I think that kind of hurts the appeal. Part of the heat is that they don't do that all the time. I think WWE would really struggle with that. So yeah, I think he'd be treated as a top guy in the way they treat guys like that. Like we talk about with Kevin Owens, he's featured all the time, but he's beaten all the time. So it's just different. I don't mean they bury him or anything, but I don't think it would be critically acclaimed by any means. Sky has a flaw in calling the TNT title an open challenge belt because he's been asking for a match for months. Yeah, you're not wrong. Jack Crosby is very busy. I cannot invite him on the show. He's also a coward. Yeah, there you go. Cody's positive test definitely changed plans with TNT title. Maybe. I don't know, right? I remember Sean being real bullish that he was dropping that thing anyway back to Sammy. So that whole little chapter there is certainly. I've got some questions left for that. It was a strange choice. I think it worked in a kind of in purely in Sammy's perspective because I do think Sammy left it more over, but it was still a weird choice. I think so. We'll see how that goes. See what Cody does next. That'll probably be telling. Yeah, I think MJF's very involved in what he does right now, guys. To be honest, I think he's very, very prominent piece of that promotion for the foreseeable future. I'm positive MJF doesn't leave him with the title story somewhere down the line. Well, that'd be something, wouldn't it? He did the Summer of Punk deal, but he was actually staying all along. I think people would see through it, to be honest. But the fans are now and the only reason they didn't see through it with Punk was because he was actually leaving. They're not going to see through. So, yeah. He would rule, though. Yeah, this could also be true. Cody may just win that once a year. I don't know. Which is fine. I mean, he always has good matches for it, right? So I can't dunk on it, but it did catch me off guard, that whole thing with Sammy. There is a theory that the first guy that leaves the Fed could be buried on purpose. Do you think there's a possibility if it is a mid-card guy? I don't think that's likely, to be honest, in an intentional sense. I don't think they would fuck with a guy to bury them in the way they did a carrying cross. I think there's a chance they're burying them inadvertently because they do that a lot because they step on every single possible grenade. I would say the first guy that jumps, unless it is a really low on the totem pole guy, which you could argue there's already been a couple of those, but you get what I mean. I would say they'll try to treat them well in their own minds, at least, because they don't want it to be the last guy that jumps. Now, again, their way of treating people well does not necessarily mean that we think it's good or the talent likes it. They operate in their own world in that sense. How long until MJF makes a joke about wanting Sting money? That's good shit. It's probably about 2 weeks. Probably about 48 hours, in fact. Who wrestles in WWE again first? Cody or Jericho? I don't think Jericho ever will. So I will say Cody based on the fact that I don't really think he will, but he has more time. So therefore, I would say it's more likely. I know a lot of people think Jericho is going to go back eventually. I genuinely think that's not happening. That's just me. It's also very fair that he could want the Hall of Fame deal. I just think I don't know, man. I think that relationship's really solid with AEW. I could be wrong. Okay, the ladder match here: Hobbs, Wardlow, Ethan, Josh, Orange Cassidy, Cody. Orange is a good one. We mentioned this on the grin. I remember one of you guys pointed out to before. I forgot him again. Orange is a good one because there's not really a feud for him at the pay-per-view, and he'll be on. So Orange is a good one. Hobbs is a good one. Yeah. The wrestlers really give it. You'd be surprised, man. The wrestlers, not all of them, but a lot of them really take the Hall of Fame thing seriously. It depends who it is. I could see Jericho not giving a shit because Jericho's financially secure and etc. etc. But there are a lot of guys. You'd be amazed. Certain like old school guys too that really care about it. It's wild. And I get it, right? Like it's a cool deal. You get to go, have a speech and you get given your flowers, so to speak. But obviously, there's a lot of other elements to it that we all agree are kind of horse shit. So I get it. I could see him doing the Rumble. There you go, Crook. But maybe the same that does the Rumble and then goes in the Hall of Fame. How long until an AEW Hall of Fame? Hopefully a while. I would guess at least they'll give it at least until 2029. I would guess maybe 10 years. That's what I mean. That feels like what you should do. ROH took 20 years, yeah. But obviously ROH's impact is huge, but their popularity is such, is much lesser. Yeah, this is the thing, right? The cruise, all of this stuff, man. I don't know. I just don't think it's happening. Closer we get to 2024, the more MJF is going to talk about leaving. He's absolutely going to do this. I just don't think it's happening. Yes, this is very much the case. Jericho always talks about how he doesn't even want a big farewell, and he's a heel, drag him out screaming and kicking. Then again, he did also do the 25 years of Jericho thing, or the 30 years of Jericho thing, which was, slightly in contrast to that. So there you go. If Joe and Danielson are still in the Fed, does RH even do a Hall of Fame? Man, it's a good question. The only reason I'll say yes is because they were hinting at it a lot. I want to say like 18 months ago when they were in like the locked when COVID was, young enough. Incredible phrasing on my part. When it was new and fresh enough that Ring of Honor, closed down for a little bit there before they closed down again this last couple of months. They were hinting at it a lot. So I think, I think they would. It's just a matter of what it looks like, right? Who is the first man and woman in AEW's Hall of Fame? Britt Baker and Chris Jericho, probably. Jericho, is the. I don't know what approach the EVPs would take because, obviously they should be the first. But if they're still on good terms, I could see them wanting to kind of spotlight one of the others. And Jericho was the first big name that signed on, right? Unless you like Jim Ross or whatever. Brody Lee, there you go. Duke's was a good one. Brody Lee's actually a great call. There you go. I think RH is in part doing it because they need content and a little buzz. Absolutely the case. Yep. I do think though, guys, genuinely, because they were, as I say, they were kind of talking in it and throwing the idea out there. I do think there's a chance they actually, 20 years they kind of had that penciled in, which is hilarious because about 6 weeks ago, a lot of people thought it wasn't coming back at all. So maybe that went away. I don't know. This would rule. Relationships pending. Britt Baker, Jericho, and the Elite of the first class. There you go. Mox would be obviously. I think Brody's a lock. I think you got to add Brody to the. I think if you almost take the Elite out because it's just different, and that doesn't mean they wouldn't be in. I'm just saying. Britt, Jericho, Mox, and Brody as the first four would make sense. But again, that's just assuming the Elite's treated differently because they're still in the position they're in now, which could very much not be the case. We don't know. Hangman's also a great call. Hangman is, that's a hell of a call. I think Tony and Cody would start a physical Hall of Fame in Jacksonville. I don't know. It'd be hilarious if they did. It is, Joe. It definitely is. I'd like them to announce some matches here soon. Yeah, there's they need to get some talent out there. I think Jonathan Gresham versus Bandito is a nice match for sure. And if you've been watching the Ring of Honor product, it's one that pops you. But they need a match here soon that's going to pop people that are not locked into the Ring of Honor product. And that could be a range of things. It could be one of these names we're talking about tonight that AEW is not going to sign. I don't know. But they need something to do a hook for people that have lost their way with the Ring of Honor product. I think there's a chance here and it is an opening, so we'll see. If it's FTR versus Briscoes in RH, which match does AEW get in return? I don't know, because it feels like there's a lot of evidence that like you would do it as a program, right? So then the question becomes, do you do a deal where Briscoes lose them at Supercard of Honor and then they go to Dynamite and do you do something like that? I don't know. Do you have FTR defend the belts on Dynamite? I don't know. I don't think it'd be a one and done is what I'm getting at. I think after all, if you make us wait 5 to 6 months, match one, I'm probably having FTR get at them with the belts. I think FTR, one of the main reasons they want to do it is to get another belt in their collection too, so which is fine, or how. So yeah, I don't know. I think it could be a lot of moving pieces with that. AEW doesn't work Mania weekend, so you're getting a bigger AEW name for the first show back as possible. Absolutely. I wouldn't say FTR are a lock by any means, but I think they're pretty feasible. I also think if there's a Hall of Fame ceremony and Bryan's there, you got to try and move mountains to do something with Gresham and Bryan, right? You have to. If you can come out of Supercard of Honor with your best in the world main event being Jonathan Gresham, Bryan Danielson, I think you've got a real chance at being a player. That's obviously very optimistic. It could be impossible. I think Bryan would be down for it. And Bryan's probably going to have a lot of say in what he does. So I don't think it's impossible. That's what I'm saying. This is the thing, right? It's like, because there's no contract, you need to roll out some names that you've booked just for one day, right? And go just to get some hype. Because there's some interesting names out there. I think, I don't need to get into the obvious ones because I'd pretty bore everyone, but it's like, there's some interesting candidates that I don't think they'd be able to lock down full time, but could be interesting as one-offs. This would be interesting if that was actually the AEW match. That would kind of be like the Suzuki vibe, but the Suzuki was on YouTube, right? So it'd be interesting. Pop. Okay. AEW Streets are saying there's 2 debuts Wednesday, Keith in the ladder match, and a New Japan guy. Wouldn't surprise me at all. 2 debuts would be very Tony Khan. I'd assume we're looking at a Jay White or Juice Robinson, who is indeed a New Japan guy also. But we'll see. We'll let it play out. I think they announced their own like territory today, didn't they? On the Control Your Narrative guys, like doing their own shows. Did I imagine that, or was that a thing that happened today? If ROH only signs 6 people, who are they besides Gresham? Trish Adora, Fred Yehire, Buddy Matthews. I would like to see. I'm trying to keep this as realistic as I can. I'd like to see like Anthony Henry there. Yeah, and then one of the. I think the big thing is like whoever AEW isn't going for, right? Out of like Swerve, Keith, Joe, Gargano, whoever, those bigger names, you get one of them. It's a huge deal for them. So there you go. God Juice. God would be interesting. I don't really know what they'd do there, though, to be honest. What else we got here? 2 debuts after Tony clarified it was only one would be very funny. Factual. The Van. I'm not sure she'd be a good fit for Ring of Honor Toby Suicida, but I appreciate it. Whose promo is this, AC? Who are we talking about here? I'm sorry, I get very... Yeah, Jay White's in America, right? That's why I listed him. To be clear, that's in reference to Bill's Mafia saying that there could also be a New Japan guy. I know he's not signing there. I'm saying as a guest. And again, I don't even know what that looks like. What you do with him, what you're building to. I don't know. Just he feels like one of the obvious New Japan guys to list. Fair. Oh, the Control Your Narrative. Yeah, that was bad. I always defend EC3, but good lord, he's not making it easy for me. It's tough, man. It's real tough. Appears all New Japan contracts are up February 1st. Yeah. I don't know what the kind of consensus is among talent on New Japan at this point. I do not know. Obviously, it's been a very tumultuous couple of years, and a lot of that's out of their hands. Some of it is not out of their hands because there's been obviously some kind of turmoil internally about Booker, and there's stuff going on. You can tell because there's certain leaks that wasn't there before, or haven't been there since the Elite left anyway. So, yeah, it's an interesting time. I think, New Japan money-wise, when the world opens back up, it's a player, right? It's one of the main options, and there's a lot of free agents. So it'll be interesting to see how many of those guys re-sign for sure. But again, Jay White, we know years left. So there you go. Yes, Jay was on the Impact tapings. He's been great every time he's worked those tapings. He's an absolute television star. He's tremendous. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with EC3, man. He feels like he's really lost his way. I'm not saying he was ever like, some crazy world beat, but like, he was a fun heel there for a while. Like a sort of like lesser MJF. And now he feels so distant from that. He's doing this like brutal, this Control Your Narrative stuff's bad. Real bad. It's a shame. He's doing it with those 2 dudes too, which is unfortunate in a range of ways. Yes, the Spud feud in Impact was great. Yeah, Swerve. I think Swerve will just. I mean, here's the thing with AEW though, right? Is you can do those bookings and also be on their roster. That's why they're kind of interesting as an alternative to WWE. Is if you want to be active, you can be. Ospreay. Is Ospreay in America? I don't know. That would be an interesting conversation. I actually like DC3's in-ring work in NXT. Yeah, man, he's a guy that if his feud has some juice too, like he can have a more than serviceable match. It's just He never felt like a good fit in Ring of Honor, but doing this shtick is even worse than you'd imagine. So it's a shame. Because Spud popped up anywhere. He is not. I don't even know if he's free yet, because I think he was later in November. So he probably is the 19th, I think. Because he worked the UK tour. So I don't think he was cut that week. Yeah, me either, brother. We have been owned in regards to EC3. Ospreay has another 2 years on his deal. There you go. I love EC3 for keeping the other two busy. That's good stuff. Big pop. Yes, they basically can. I think they can have some control over what guys do, but like obviously depending on how big of a star you are, not really. It was really kind of weird at the start. People forget this now because the Forbidden Door and all that, Like the Forbidden Door thing was because there was that weird deal where talent was working New Japan just based on their own cachet, right? There was no link between the promotions. So guys would work AEW and just be like, yeah, I intend to work New Japan at some point. That's what Mox did. That's what Jericho did for that last Wrestle Kingdom he did. I know there was a lot of talk Brody was going to do that, which is, God, man, missing out on that. It's like, that'd have been incredible. But yeah, it's the Forbidden Door thing now just being a term for wrestlers that are signed is tremendous. Respect it. Okay. I believe here as we wind down, we reach 2 hours. We're gonna wrap at 2. Any final comments, questions, queries, so on and so forth? Yes. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is if you're in AEW's position, other than a circumstance like that where obviously you don't want anyone to be near that show, generally speaking, you're in the better position, right? What does it matter if a guy works in indie? Now, obviously, if people keep getting hurt, it's kind of frustrating. I get it, but I think generally speaking, they're in a position where they can kind of be lax with that because they have the roster depth for it, and they want to play nice with operations. That's part of the big thing they have over at WWE is they do that. So, yeah, I think they step in a lot. I think there's certain things that have, certain adjustments that made with AEW talent, but I don't know. I saw a clip of Shida's play in Japan. It's a play with weapons in the middle of a wrestling ring. It's wild as hell. My God. What all hell. Congratulations to Hikaru Shida. Okay. I'm not doing a 30-second countdown before I depart, so I'll start doing plugs and promotions. Tomorrow, 6:05 Brit time, 1:05 Eastern time, latenightgrin.com. It is T-Dub Tuesday. Be in the chat and book the territory. Okay, folks? I don't book. I ask you questions. You answer as a group. I book. We're in the 3rd week. We're crowning a women's champion this week. We have a TV main event of Tasha Steelz, Athena, and Mia Yim, I believe. It's fun stuff. There's a lot going on there. Then, at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, midnight here in Great Britain, Shoot and Bob will do an AEW Dark Watch Along. I may be there for that. I may not be. I don't know. It depends. Wednesday, back on this very channel, free content. AEW Dynamite preview, AEW Dynamite review. Thursday, I don't know yet. I don't know if Oracle can do the historical Oracle. Seems unlikely. He has a lot to watch. Friday, I don't know either, other than the world famous Late Night Grin at latenightgrin.com. Free 4-hour podcast, you know the deal. This is also true. There is a lot of speculation that when Joe Holt will be fired in that TEW game because he is a piece of shit who's been spreading rumors about Jonah. As Push would say, if you know, you know. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy tonight's single. Enjoy the last hour of Raw. This has been the very first Monday Night Law. This is true. If Samoa Joe debuts Thursday, will be a 24-hour stream. Thank you for reminding me of that, Tim Green. This has been the very first Monday Night Law. It may be the last. I don't know. People seem to enjoy it. Goodbye. Keep grinning. All hell.